Have you ever had a really narcissistic boss that people thought was a killer business person or a visionary or a genius? Then this video is for you. So, as I do, I was reading about a man who was notorious in his industry for being a cruel and awful and abusive boss. And there were all kinds of allegations of mental cruelty and emotional abuse and, throwing stuff around the office and humiliating those who reported to him. He is also, frankly, one of the most successful men in his industry. But times changed in the period of this person being abusive, and abuse became a little less tolerable in the workplace, or at least not tolerated, and technology meant that there were more ways for people over time to also connect with those who had been abused before them. Think about it. Back in the day, frankly, even when I was younger, if you had an abusive boss, there really would be no way to go back and find other people who had worked there or who had had these stories. That's changed. Listen, even in the work I do, the consulting work I do, I've even had the opportunity to talk with people who had been abused by this guy. That's how wide a net of abused people this guy had left around the world. It was bad. But the leaders in the field, not surprisingly, all enabled and emboldened him because he was a genius and he always got results. Listen, I've done other videos on this YouTube channel about the whole idea of the genius excuse. If what you do in the world is impactful or good or geniusy enough. And it is amazing how much a person can get away with other people, or even in the world of public opinion, if they're considered to be some sort of visionary or innovator or genius. So I'm reading this article about this genius yet abusive man, and because he got in trouble for what he did, he dropped out of his industry for a while. Apparently he went to therapy, or so he said, and I have no doubt that he had access to the very best therapy and therapists out there because he's a ton of money. What is interesting is that in his, in this article, at least, again, in his therapeutic work, he says that he started understanding through therapy his why. And I thought this was worth sharing. Because honestly, isn't that what all of us who go through these narcissistically abusive work relationships, isn't this what we're desperate for? We want to ask them, why did you do this? Were you even aware you were doing this to me? Listen, I'm not saying that what this guy is sharing and his revelation about his why would explain what your boss or manager or company leader did to you, but what this dude had to say was fascinating. He said that he actually acknowledged he was tough on people. I don't think that's quite the same as knowing you abuse them, but he knew that he was tough on people, and basically that being that abusive, again, he didn't use the word abusive, he said that his behavior was a price he could live with. But he learned that he did not think about the price that other people could live with. I found that right out the gate to be a fascinating insight, because that is that low empathy and the lack of self-awareness in action. I know what I want, but I'm not going to think about what this is going to do to other people. He goes on to say that what he was doing professionally, at the level he was doing it, at the level of excellence he was doing it, and I'm quoting him, this is exactly what he said, it's quoted in the article, requires a level of narcissism. And then says that you kind of have to believe that what you're doing, and I guess what he meant are doing, is better than other people. Again, I found it interesting because it is very likely that at least this one particular guy had evolved in what we could call a self-aware narcissist who will still hold perfectionistic, exacting standards and believe that his work or his art that he knows he is better at than other people, and his track record supports that, means that you do what you got to do, but that now he's had to learn the rules of the world and other people, largely so he wouldn't get into trouble. But what I hear there is that I get that I can't be hard on people, but this work and the way I do it is important, so I kind of should be allowed to be hard on people. But I can't do that without getting in trouble, so I won't do that, but I should be allowed to be hard on people. Self-aware narcissistic folks in the workplace are actually quite interesting. You can see that they know what the right answer is in terms of behavior. And it's almost like painfully watching that a team of horses in their brain is holding them back from saying or doing the bad thing that they feel entitled to do, but the company can't afford it. It means that these self-aware narcissistic people can often get quite depleted quite quickly. I mean, once upon a time, they just raged and screamed and yelled and abused and threw things and did what they want. But now, if they do get caught out, and whatever consequence, and then they get some help, and then they come back, yeah, they are playing with new rules. And the self-aware narcissistic person in the workplace may also have a lot of contempt for the rules, may not agree with the rules. They will sneer at them. They will honor them because they have to, but not the spirit of the rules. They follow them so they can get done what they feel entitled to, what they should be able to get done. They aren't being nice to you now, or non-abusive, really, because they think well of you. They are being nice to you, or like I said, marginally respectful to you, or not abusive, so they don't get into trouble. There's a difference. I have talked with and consulted with lots of people who have navigated toxic bosses like this very one in the article. The funny thing is that we often hear the stories of the bullies, but less so do we hear the stories of the people who are harmed by them. Because let me tell you what happened to those folks. Many of them left an industry they dreamed of working in, or jobs they actually liked and believed in. But to be in the job took too vast a toll on their mental and physical health. So while the self-aware narcissistic person was a one-person wrecking crew, and then through therapy becomes a sort of kinder, gentler, but still as entitled and contemptuous version of themselves, the folks who worked with them don't get the second chance. They don't get the apology. They don't get to start again. The narcissistic person really was not harmed by what happened. Maybe they were shamed, maybe they felt a consequence, but they were not harmed. Again, there is a difference. I have witnessed many a career of a promising person crushed under the harm of a narcissistic boss. And the boss may have been a mentor, or might have been the first boss that a person got out of when they got out of school. A boss someone was initially honored to work for because that boss was a hotshot or a visionary or a genius. And what happened after that, though, squeezed all the love out of the game, all the years of training. These are people who sometimes spent years getting education or training and then left the field altogether because just having to work under those conditions and keep trying to do that kind of work is overwhelming, especially since narcissistic bosses can be quite vindictive. This guy's insights into himself, the one in the article, were actually quite fascinating to me because I do believe they apply in many of these cases. The whole, I know I was an asshole. The therapist likely helped this person see that. And then the person says, yeah, I know I was an asshole and that was not okay, but it was a not okay I could live with because the work was so important. In other words, the work was what was important, and the people were disposable. There may be people out there listening to this, and I know some of you are thinking, well, if their work is transformative or important or brilliant, then maybe people do get hurt in the making of it. But then the world gets the innovation, which sucks for the people who got hurt, but yeah, sure, the world gets that innovation. But I firmly believe that innovation can happen without cruelty, dismissiveness, and devaluation. But what the hell do I know? That whole mindset, I know what I want and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get it, but I'm not going to stop and think about what this is going to do to other people. That's not a mindset just restricted to the office or the workplace. It is every narcissistic relationship. But it is a reminder, too. The narcissistic person knows at some level that there is a price being paid by others for whatever it is they're doing. But they do what they're doing anyhow. That price, even though it's other human beings, feels like an acceptable opportunity cost. Which all makes sense until you and your feelings and your mental health and your life are the price that is being paid. Thanks again.